there, I'm Nancy, and today we are making some sourdough bread bowls. I'm super excited because bread bowls and soup are my favorite thing when it comes to fall, and so let's get started. So for your equipment, you are going to need a mixing bowl, a bench scraper, parchment paper, a baking stone or an 8x13 baking sheet, and a pizza pail. For your ingredients, you're going to use 225 grams of active starter, 400 grams of water, 600 grams of flour, 10 grams of salt, and about a cup of ice cubes to go in the oven when you bake. So the first thing you want to do is you want to feed your sourdough starter about 10 to 12 hours before you're ready to bake. And then, so I feed it the night before, and then when I get up, I'm ready to make my dough. So to make the dough, we are going to mix 25 grams of active starter, water, flour, and salt in a bowl using a wooden spoon, dough whisk, whatever you have to mix it with. The dough will look shaggy, but it will come together. Once it has been mixed together, you are going to do a bulk fermentation, which is going to be about 4 or 5 hours. So with the bulk fermentation, we are going to cover the bowl and let it sit for 1 hour. After an hour, we will uncover the bowl and do a series of 3 stretch and folds. I like to wet my hands when I go to do this, and I pick up the underside of the dough and fold it over top itself. Turn the bowl after each fold, picking up each different section on the dough, folding and turning as you go. Once you've done that, you will cover the bowl again and let it rest for another hour. So stretch and fold number 2, we're going to do the same thing we did before, picking up the edge and folding it and turning the bowl. And when you look at the dough, you can see how more cohesive and stretchy it is. Once we've gone through and done the folds, we are going to cover it and let it sit for another hour. Now we're on to set number 3 of our stretch and folds. After we get these ones done, we're going to let the dough rest covered for an additional 2 hours. We're wanting the dough to rise about 30 to 40% and have a few bubbles on the top. It'll start to pull away from the edges and start to kind of get a dome when we're ready to do the next step. So now that it has risen, we are going to do a cold fermentation. We're going to cover the bowl with plastic wrap or lid and put it in the refrigerator to let it rest overnight. It can stay in the fridge for 8 to 48 hours. It's now the next day and we are going to shape the bread bowls. I'm going to take the dough out of the refrigerator, separate it into pieces about 240 grams each, using the bench scraper and wet hands as I shape each piece into a round ball, tucking the dough under itself, turning it and creating the tension, shaping it into a round ball. I am going to place the little dough balls on a piece of parchment paper and cover them and let them rest for about 2.5 to 3 hours. The dough will puff up and almost double in size during this time. About an hour into your rise time, maybe an hour and a half, you are going to prepare your baking stone by putting it in your oven and preheating it to 450 for about 45 minutes. After the oven has preheated, we are going to score each dough ball with and you can make it whatever shape you want. And then you are gonna put down some flour or cornmeal on the pizza pill and put the ball on the pill so that we can put it in the oven. For baking, we are going to place a shallow pan filled with the ice cubes on the bottom rack of the oven. We're going to use the pizza pill or a large cutting board to launch the dough balls into the oven on top of the stone. You're going to bake for 15 minutes without opening the oven. After 15 minutes, you're going to remove the pan from the oven it's now water, the pan that had the ice in it, and bake for another 10 to 15 minutes until you get the desired color. And now that you are done baking, you're going to pull them out of the oven. I use tongs. You're going to let them cool completely before cutting open at least 1 hour. Cut the bread bowl at an angle to cut out the top, and then you can use your fingers to pull out the inside of the bread, leaving the crust to serve as like the actual bowl for your soup or chili. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you give this bread bowl recipe a try. And until next time, happy baking, friends. Bye.